Hello, everyone. How you doing today? I hope you've all been good little boys and girls out there and waiting me to come by and see you sometime in a few days. Mr. and Miss Santa Claus know you couldn't come see us in the store, so we wanted to read a story, two of them, just for you to entertain you for this holiday. So, Mrs. Claus,
Thank you, Mr. Claus.
you're welcome.
Boys and girls, have you heard of this story? Is How the Grinch Stole Christmas? Actually, it is one of Santa's favorite stories. And he wants me to read it to you today. So I'm going to read it to you. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't wrapped on just right. It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. But I think the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was two sizes too small. Wow, that's terrible. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve hating those who's, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Today, tomorrow is Christmas. It's practically here. Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming. I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early. They'd rush for their toys. And then, oh, the noise, oh, the noise, oh, the noise, oh, the noise. That's one thing he hated. That noise, 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 noise. He is a grumpy old thing. Then the Who's young and old would sit down to a feast, and they'd feast and they'd feast and they'd feast. I love a Christmas feast, don't you? Well, they would feast on Who pudding, rare roast beast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. He doesn't like anything. He just does like anything. And then they do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They stand hand in hand, and the Who's would start singing. And they'd sing and they'd sing and they'd sing and they'd sing. And they'd sing and they'd sing and they'd sing and they'd sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years, I put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. How can something be wonderful and awful at the same time? That doesn't make sense. I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And he chuckled and chuckled. What a great Grinchy trick. With this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. And all I need is a reindeer. Then he looked around, but since there was no reindeer, there was one thing that he found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No, the Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So guess what he did? So he called his dog Max. Then he took some red thread and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch, then the Grinch said, "Giddy up!" And the sleigh started down toward the homes where the Who lay a snoozing in their town. All their windows were dark. Quiet snow filled the air. All the Who's were dreaming sweet dreams without a care. When he came to the first little house on the square, "This is stop number one," the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Oh, he is just awful, just terrible. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a moment or two. Then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flute, where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. "These stockings," he grinned, "are the first things to go." Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant, and around the whole room, and he shook every present. He took every present: pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn, and plums. And he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags one by one up the chimney. He's taken their toys. He's taken all their gifts. Oh my goodness.
Grinch is a mean guy, isn't he?
Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He said he didn't like feast. Then he took the Who pudding. He took the roast beef. He cleaned out the icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took their last cup of Who hash.
Boy, he was mean, wasn't he?
He was awful. He was just awful. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. "And now," grinned the Grinch, "I will stuff up the tree."
Wow.
He not only took their toys and their food, he took their tree too.
That's a mean old guy.
He is awful. And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and he saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou, who was not more than two. The Grinch had been caught by the tiny Who daughter, who got out of the bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and she said, "Santa Claus, why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" But you know that old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. "Why, my sweet little tot," the fake Santa lied, "there's a light on the tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head, and he got her a drink and sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for the fire. He wanted them to freeze. The log for the fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, that old liar. On their walls, he left nothing but the hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that wasn't even big enough for a mouse.
Boy, he's mean.
Then he did the same thing to the other Who houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who mouses. It was a quarter past dawn, and all the Who's were still in bed. All the Who's still a snooze when he packed up his sled, packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrapping, the tags, and the tinsel, the trimmings, and the trappings. 3,000 feet up to the side of Mount Crumpet. He rode with his load to the tip top to dump it. Pooh, pooh to those Who's, he said with his grinchingly humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I just know what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry boo-hoo. I don't think they're gonna cry. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I must simply hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear, and he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started out low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very merry. He sat down at Whoville. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. Because Christmas isn't just about gifts and toys. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages. It even came without bags. And he puzzled for 3 hours till the puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't thought of before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes bigger that day.
Wow.
And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright snowing morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beef. Wow, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed that story. Like I said, that is one of Santa's favorite stories because he knows that Christmas isn't just about the toys. It's about the love you give and the love that people give to you. It's about family, and it's about being together, and it's about having fun with each other. It's not just about the toys and the gifts. Although those are good, those are nice, and we all have things we like to ask Santa for. Now, I have another treat for you. I'm going to read The Night Before Christmas.
Are you ready?
The Night Before Christmas. Please. 'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. and Mama in her kerchief, and I in my cap had just settled down for a long winter's nap. Show the picture, Flynn. Show the picture, Santa. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, and I tore open the shutters and threw open the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave the luster of midday to objects below, when what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer.
Wow. Looks like me then. Ho, 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 ho.
With a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick. More rapid than eagles, his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donder and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall. Now dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane plane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up to the housetop, the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys and St. Nicholas too. Do you see them out the window? And then in a twinkling, I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his sack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose was like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. Look at that beard. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke, it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a round little belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know that I had nothing to dread. Santa was friendly. He wasn't going to hurt anyone. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and he filled all the stockings and turned with a jerk. And laying a finger aside of his nose and giving a nod up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim as he drove out of sight,
Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
Thank you, Santa. Boys and girls, I hoped you enjoyed that story. Santa wants to tell you something. Actually, this is Santa's one of his brothers. Did you know Santa had brothers? Well, he sent his brother down here to help out to speak to you today because he couldn't come. He's busy. But he wanted to tell you all that he sees you and he knows what you've been doing all year. Yes. He knows that if you've been paying attention in your virtual schools, he knows that you've been paying attention, you've been answering the questions, doing your homework, being good.
Behaving your parents too.
He knows if you've been listening to mommy and daddy or grandma or your uncles. He knows that. He knows if you've been good to your brothers and sisters. He knows. And let me tell you something else, girls and boys. Santa knows what mommy and daddy have said that you can have for Christmas. So Santa will bring what mommy and daddy said that he could bring. He won't bring anything else. So if you've been good, mommy and daddy have been talking to Santa. Did you know they talk to Santa too? I even talked to Santa. Santa has my list too. I have been a good girl. So I'm sure all of you have been good girls and boys too. Like Tylen and Jameson McCorda, I know you have. Rylan, Luke, Lexi, Jace, and Taylor, I know you've been good. Jace and Justin, I know you guys have been good. And Santa's watching you and he is so proud of you. Bryson and Brahma, well, we know that you have been behaving. Lexi, yes. Miss Lexi Roberts, Santa can't wait to come visit you. Levi, Blake, make sure you go to bed early. Make sure you go to bed. Josiah, Savannah, London, oh my goodness, Joy, Zoe, Christina, Kristen. He sees you. He sees you.
Now.
Be good. Oh, and boys and girls, don't forget to leave something special for Santa. This Santa likes cookies.
And milk.
And milk. And don't forget the reindeer. You know what they love to eat? Carrots. Yep. They love carrots. So, we have 5 days. Santa will be to visit you in 5 days. Continue to be good little boys and girls. Because Santa can't wait to visit you. And I just know that when he comes, you will be really happy. So boys and girls, we're going to sign off.
Bye-bye.
Santa's brother is going back to the North Pole and I'm going back with him. But we'll be back to see you next year. Hopefully we'll see you in the store next year. If not, we'll see you right here on camera. Take care. Be good. We love you.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas and have a good week. Behave yourself now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.